Tama.
Welcome to the Wingley Update. Name to be decided. Forget everything you know about programming language for the cloud. Now, welcome your host, Eyal Keren.
Still funny, the intro. It's something that still makes me laugh. How you all doing? How you doing, Elad?
Hey, Yal, how are you?
I'm good. What's up with you lately?
Working hard, working a lot, but having a lot of fun and excited.
So with you're doing both kind of running a company and a developer.
Yeah.
How's
Well, I basically took a little bug that became like a huge project, and I felt like I'm doing all the mistakes of like an engineer that can't, like break his work well and like commit smaller pieces of it, and so it kind of got in very like it became a very big project, but it was actually really fun, like technically. So
yeah, I it's kind of my favorite analogy is when you start to dig a hole. Then I'm gonna dig a little bit, a small hole, and then I'm gonna,
just let's see what's going on.
I'm just gonna put this little plant. Oh, by the way, where is we forgot
Wilson.
Wilson, yeah. But just put a little Wilson down, and then a couple of days after, you're in a big hole. You're looking outside. What am I digging here? My grave.
Yeah,
I mean,
and you're too deep. And you're too deep now.
I can't. Yeah, I
You're too deep into the PR.
Yeah.
So basically, tried to improve the lifting system.
Got it.
Of Wing is so that you can actually like lift complete expressions from pre-flight to in-flight.
Yeah.
So if you referenced, a string, it'll bring the string. If you referenced some complete expression that evaluates to a string, it will copy only the string and bring only the string. Or if you evaluate an expression that says at one dot something, again, it'll just capture. So that was what I was working on, and it was like really hard technically. I feel like it was I didn't approach it correctly. I kind of approached it. I was like, I'm just gonna fix this bug, and then it became like a whole rethinking of how lifting works, and there were a few things that I already wanted to fix from the past. So I kind of like, you know what? Maybe that's an opportunity to fix that too. And so you end up with this PR, gigantic PR, and people need to review it. And so I'm trying, and then as I'm sending that PR to review, I'm like going to bed, and I was like, oh, I actually need to do it completely other way. And so I like rewrite the whole thing and submit it again in another PR. And then the third time. So basically did like 3 iterations of the whole project.
Is this something
which you didn't know, right?
I didn't know. Is this something you is this familiar to you in engineering? Does this happen to you?
It's happened sometimes.
Yeah.
It happens sometimes.
Yeah, you start working on something, you understand the problem much better, and then you say, I understand the problem so much better, I'm going back and starting it again. But 3 times, that's
Yeah.
3 times. Okay.
Yeah. And the way I'm thinking about it is basically that this is the design process. And I feel like in some situation, and I think that this one, definitely could have done better, like design or thinking before and brainstorming with the team and things like that. Absolutely. But to me, the beauty of software is that you can design with the software. And so, you do something, you make some refactor, you change your code somehow, and you see the implications of that change. And then these implications teach you something about how this code behaved and where it was in the pipeline and how the tests are working.
Yeah.
And so you're like, okay, wait. And by the way, one of the things that I did from the first iteration was to start writing unit tests. And so every edge case I saw in the first iteration and the second iteration basically added another unit test.
Yeah.
And I ended up with like 300 tests or something.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I like about, I'm a TDD fan. I like the fact that you have test and then progressive design.
Exactly.
The tests allow you to kind of change the design
Exactly,
as you
exactly,
go, and you
exactly.
still feel I'm not losing anything. The asset is in the test.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so that's what I did, and that was really like every iteration. It was faster because it was much easier to validate that it still worked and I didn't break anything. And every time I changed something, we like quickly saw exactly where it's breaking. And
Awesome.
so it was, but it did kind of bury me. Like,
Yep. Okay. So what do we have today for the show? Do you know the show, man? Can you read?
Yes. So we invited Adam Ruka to talk to us, and I'm super excited about that. I've been working with him for many years in the CDK team, and he's actually one of the very, very, very first CDK contributor, not core team member. So I think, right, like maybe we'll ask him, and
okay, we'll ask him about that. And then we're gonna do some live coding session. We're gonna do the kind of the analytics on top of the URL shortener. That I think.
Yeah, it's the I made up a whole call it let's build it.
A live coding session. Okay,
and let's build it session.
Got it. And then we're gonna have
we need to brand it.
TM.
Let's brand it. We'll get like a little.
Okay, like something that said, let's
exactly.
build it. Okay, let's do it. And then we're gonna have Revital joining us, and we're gonna meet Artem, and we're gonna talk about the way he kind of he wrote a blog post about Wing, how he came. We're gonna talk to him about his journey with Wing, which is gonna be interesting.
Totally.
So and of course we're gonna have Mark the DJ. I mean, how can we not have Mark the DJ? So we're gonna have Mark the DJ and his selected song for today. So without further ado, let's have Adam with us, right? Okay.
Hi everyone. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for being here, man.
I'm a huge fan of the Wingly update. I've seen every episode, so I'm super excited to be here.
Wow, I love it.
Probably a dream come true.
So tell us.
It's like being on TV.
What do you mean? What do you mean, like being on TV? This is the format, man.
So what do you like about Wingly update?
Oh, I just love the mix of casual banter with some arms crossing into the other camera sometimes, and the mixing of live coding. So you don't only talk about the features, you actually show them while typing, which is an awesome way to do it. And I've seen it a lot, do it 100 times with the CDK before. So it's always a joy to see. I love the format, and I love the way you guys, the dynamics between you two is very interesting.
Nice. Thank you, man. That's nice.
Okay.
So we
need to process.
To have good dynamics. So,
no, we're actually having a lot of fun with this thing, and it's helping us a lot to kind of like take a second and thought what we've been doing and take a toll and go over the PR. It's like this.
Yeah,
really
and
nice.
Celebrate, right? You guys are working hard, right? A lot is submitting gigantic PRs.
Right.
So you take a second to celebrate the wins, right? I think it's a very important part of the work.
Right. Yeah, that's cool.
So what's up, Adam? It's been like a while since we last chatted and.
Yeah, it has been.
Met for sure. Like, when was the last time we met? I think probably.
Oof. Yeah, I think it was before the pandemic when we last saw each other in person.
Pre-pandemic.
Many years ago now, I guess. But I feel like we've seen each other quite a bit through the magic of the internet since. So yeah, I've been. I knew about Wing a little bit before the general public. Elad talked to me about we're going to release this new programming language. So I was super excited when I saw it dropped. I was, I immediately signed up for the closed alpha to try it out. Yeah, and I've been very closely, monitoring what's happening in that space, because I think it's a very interesting area that a lot of innovation is happening, and Wing is on the forefront of it.
It's awesome to hear, man. So maybe take us back a little bit, hear about your background, your journey, I guess, from whenever you feel like it's the right time to start.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we'll settle the all was I a contributor or an engineer on the CDK debate. So, yeah, so I joined Amazon in 2015, and similar to Alad, I joined in the retail space. So, while Alad was in search, I was in Amazon Business, which is like a version of Amazon.com that's geared towards other companies being the customer versus, an individual consumers like us. So, there's a bunch of features for companies to make that easier, right? You can group accounts into an organization. You can share payment methods. You can do approval workflows, spending limits, right? A lot of those things that companies that shop on Amazon.com need. So I worked there for around 2 years. And I remember the thing that really blew my mind when I joined Amazon was the amount of developer tools that were internal to the company. It was just staggering to me. Like Amazon had its own source control systems. It had its own build and dependency management system, its own deployment system, its own continuous integration system, and a separate continuous deployment system, right? It had something for secrets, for certificates, right? And, endpoints, right? If you wanted to expose an API publicly, and probably 10 or 20 that I'm forgetting right now. So just the
And
sheer
multiple duplicates of each one,
10 or
basically.
20 just for one.
absolutely
Exactly.
yes, an old one that was deprecated 10 years ago, but the
But
new one never got the
70% of
one
the traffic,
feature.
but still 70% of the traffic. And then, yeah,
Yes,
it's fascinating. It is.
absolutely. Yeah. So I've never seen that before. So I previously worked at smaller companies in Poland, where I'm originally from. And, we used maybe things like Jenkins, right? Or Gerrit for code reviews, but nobody would dream of like writing its own internal tool that's only used in the company. And it has a team of engineers, right? Kind of maintaining and adding features to it. So I remember that was just a complete surprise to me, and I became very curious, like how does this whole organization that has all of these teams and maintains all of these tools, how does it work? So in 2017, I had the opportunity to move to Seattle, where I'm still at right now, and to join AWS in one of those teams that maintains these internal tools. And it was actually a very interesting team because it was also an infrastructure as code team, not the CDK, however. That's the interesting part. So this tool predates the CDK actually by a few years, and it was meant to automate interacting with all of those internal systems that are just mentioned, right? Because there were so many of them and they were becoming so complex that people were kind of tired, or hey, we have to go to the web portal for each of these tools and click something in the UI. We should do it in an automated fashion, right? Kind of the same journey that a lot of the tools in AWS went through. So this tool, however, was very different than the CDK. So first of all, it was written in Ruby, and that was the only language that was supported by it. And Ruby is not a particularly popular language inside of Amazon. It's used a little bit, but it's nowhere near as popular as the other big languages like Java or Python or JavaScript. So a lot of people were learning Ruby only to use this language, which was a little bit of friction. And in addition, Ruby's dynamic language really made it a little bit difficult sometimes, because you wanted to configure this thing, but you didn't even know what properties you could pass in there, right? So you had to go to the documentation and make sure you pass the property called ABC, and it's a string, it's not an integer, right?
And not only you had to pass properties, you had to like override callbacks, right? Like the whole programming model was like callback.
Absolutely. That was the other very interesting thing about it. That yes, instead of you calling something, it was like we will call you. So you wrote a class that extended a base class, and then you implemented methods for it. So if you had your application was in the test environment, and then the pre-prod environment, then prod, your method would be called 3 times, each with different arguments, and then you would do different things based on those arguments.
Oh,
And a lot of people had a very tough time understanding that model. It was a huge point of problems, I remember, and a huge point of confusion for customers of this tool. And we had to explain like this model over and over again. So, I was working on that team. And then in late 2017, I got an email from an engineer named Alad. I've never heard of the guy before, but he claimed that he had developed a different sort of infrastructure as code tool with his team. And he was coming to Seattle to demo it. So I unfortunately couldn't make the demo live. I remember I had a conflict then, but it was recorded, fortunately. So I saw the recording, and I was just blown away by how cool it was. So this was CloudStruct, which was Alad's precursor to the CDK, and it was written in Java. So it immediately solved like at least one of the big issues, which was it was not this exotic language that you had to learn. 90% of the developers probably inside of Amazon knew Java, and the statically typed nature of it really helped, right? So hey, I wanted to configure something. I just pressed, dot and then control space, and I got a beautiful list of things I can set. And I knew this was an integer, this was a string, and this was a complex type, right? That I had to create an instance of, right? And the callbacks were completely gone, right? So if you wanted to create free of something, you just wrote a loop, right? That did something 3 times. So, and I also remember distinctly that Alad showed unit tests for your infrastructure code. So you could write a JUnit test like any other Java code that would instantiate some of these cloud structs and then assert that they generate the correct cloud formation. And I remember that was like, wow, that is just unbelievable that you can do that with an infrastructure as code tool. I've never seen that level of like testing supported there. So I was like, yeah, this is awesome. And yeah, Alad mentioned that he was spinning up a new team that was going to work basically on the public version of CloudStruct, right? And that was what became later the CDK. And because our 2 teams were 2 infrastructure as code teams in the same organization, we collaborated quite closely, right? And I made sure that I was, involved in all of the talks between our teams. And yeah, I became a contributor. Even though I worked on this other team, I contributed heavily to the CDK, usually the parts in the code suite space. So all of the AWS services for code pipeline, code build, code deploy, etc. And after about a year of this collaboration, I had so much fun working on the CDK, and it was taking off like a rocket ship. Like people were just absolutely loving the CDK, and especially compared to the tool in Ruby, there was a very large, I would say, lovability gap between the 2 tools.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to add. That one of the biggest reasons, in my mind, the CDK was so successful at Amazon was that this project that you worked on, the LPT, was mandated to all the teams. And that's very, very rare. Like Amazon rarely requires that you have to use a certain tool. And because of Amazon's need to be able to build regions quickly, they had strong motivation to like get people to adopt this tool. And so it was like mandated. And people just hated it, really hated it. People just like had their like LPT code somewhere in the project. And it was like, to be honest, it was like a crazy system. But I think like it did have some like API issues, right? Like I feel like the surface area, and eventually they kind of got merged, right? Like CDK and LPT, no?
They did finally, yes. So there are many constructs published inside of Amazon that implement those internal systems that we talked about, right? So, for example, there's a construct where you can create a continuous deployment pipeline using the internal Amazon system, right? And it kind of looks like code pipeline, but of course has its specific quirks related to this system working a little bit differently and being more integrated with all of those internal systems at Amazon. So yes, absolutely. it was such a stark contrast that it's even hard to describe in words. Like people were just super excited when they saw the CDK, and they really wanted to use it. And I remember very quickly it became like a thing that people were advertising the CDK that we didn't even know about, right? Like it was like, oh, this development advocate is doing a talk in their AWS user group in some city about the CDK, and we've never heard about this person. They never contacted us.
No.
They never talked about it. Yeah, they saw the CDK, they saw it was awesome, they tried it, they used it, and now they wanted to spread the word. So I really, the writing on the wall was clear for me. Where is the correct direction? And I had so much fun contributing to the CDK that in 2019, early 19, I officially joined the AWS CDK. So I graduated from being a contributor to a full-time engineer. So
Demoted. You mean demoted?
I've been demoted to not a customer anymore, right?
Yeah, exactly.
This time an employee, which at Amazon is a demotion, right? Because of the customer obsession. And yeah, I like to say I was the fourth engineer on the team. Technically, I was actually the fifth because Sam Goodwin, who is the co-founder of Eventual, another tool in the infrastructure from code space, was the fourth hire, but he was on the team only, I believe, for 2 months or something like that. So I like to, skip over him a little bit in the history of the CDK. And
so you get a little
exactly, and say I was the fourth engineer hired after Elad, Rico, and Roma, who you had on the show a few weeks ago. Right. Yeah, and I had an absolute blast working on it. I worked on some cool features like the cross environment references, which were really important for code pipeline because you often want to deploy something in a different region or account, and that then became the basis of the CDK pipelines library. I worked on the CloudFormation Include module, which allowed customers to migrate from CloudFormation to the CDK, which was a very popular ask then because a lot of people had, even though they kind of didn't like CloudFormation, there was really no other AWS approved way, right? So they were using CloudFormation, but then they wanted to use all of the cool things in CDK. So it was important that we gave them a bridge to go from CloudFormation to the CDK, and the Include module allowed you to do that. And then I worked on hot swapping and watch, right? So making it faster for local development, so that you didn't have to wait a minute each time you changed one line in your Lambda code. And a bunch of other minor things as well. But yeah, it was amazing. It was an absolute pleasure working with Elad and the rest of the team.
Dude, it's really amazing to hear this story. I mean, I think it's the first time I heard you.
Completely.
Yeah, and it's really a privilege to have you all, in this journey, to have you here. I'm excited that you're following Wing and involved.
I'm interested. I kind of heard something and I'm not sure I completely understood. How does the hot swapping what's the relationship with hot swapping and?
Go ahead.
That's a very interesting story. Yes. So the hot swapping. So I think Elad from the start wanted to have a watch command. Like watch is like Elad's favorite command, I think. So anytime any CLI tool has a watch command, Elad will use it 100%, right? So he was,
which is why I told these guys, no watch.
Yeah. Unless it has the watch functionality without the watch.
Without the watch.
Actually, exactly. There is no watch because watch is built in now, right? You literally, you cannot not watch, right?
Exactly. Yeah. That's exactly.
Which is Elad's dream, I guess. Yeah. And logical conclusion of the journey he was on, right? So Elad was always very, very clear that, hey, CDK should have a watch command because, I just want to change some code in there and just see it deployed as quickly as we can do it. But the issue there was, the deployments in CloudFormation are kind of slow, right? So yes, we can do a watch command, right? But if between when you save your file and when it's actually in the cloud, it takes like a minute or two, then it's not exactly the watch that everybody's used to, right? So we were tasked with kind of figuring out the problem. Okay, so how do we make deployments quicker? And this is not an easy task. So this kind of the CloudFormation team knows that the deployments currently are slow. We're not breaking them any huge news. Hey guys, that they didn't know about.
We thought we did, but they were like, yeah, we know.
Yeah, we know exactly, and we can't because of these 8 reasons, right? Why this service is modeled this way. It's always going to be at least 30 seconds if it's like a minimum.
Yeah. Right? I think eventually they're just a messenger, right? Like behind them, there's the whole control plane of the cloud, and the control plane is fucking slow because nobody wants to, everybody. The whole point of a control plane is to basically optimize the data plane, right? So you would wait much more time in the control plane because that's the time that you. So to me, this was actually. Sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, you're completely right. And one of the issues is that when you do a deployment in CloudFormation, they don't know whether this is your stupid local stack that you're just playing with, or are you just deploying your production, application that takes in $100 million, right, every day. So they have to be the most conservative, right? They have to wait the longest amount of time before the resources stabilize, right? And make really sure that the update actually completed, right? But we realized, I think that was like the breakthrough idea that we had, like, hey, for deployment, of your local stack, there's no reason to have all of these safeguards, right? Like, I don't care. I just want to see my thing being updated as quickly as possible, and don't wait on stuff. Like, if it doesn't work, doesn't matter, because I have to wait anyway, right? You're not really buying me anything when I'm doing this locally, right? Maybe you're buying me something when this is an automated pipeline that needs to wait on it. But on my local machine, I don't care, right? So the crucial idea behind hot swapping was basically, let's completely skip the CloudFormation part and go to the resources directly and call the control planes of the resources that we are hot swapping directly, skipping CloudFormation, and in this way telling them, hey, just update this as soon as you can, and don't do a rolling deployment, right? Like you would do, right? Don't do a blue-green deployment right? That would be even worse. Just swap this code in and return to me as quickly as possible. And that allowed us to do, Lambda deployments, for example, in I think like 3 or 4 seconds.
Oh, yes. Nice.
And exactly. So then, the watch experience actually made sense, right? So you saved your code, and it would take 3 to 4 seconds before your code would be on the cloud and you could test it, right? So and we did this for a bunch of services. So Lambda was one that was very popular, but we also did it for ECS. We did it for step functions as well, which was very fast. If you just change the definition of your workflow, we could update it in 2 seconds or something like that. It was almost immediate. And a bunch of other resources that I'm not remembering right now. But this idea was really interesting and really powerful. And I think Wing's local simulator takes it to 11, kind of, right? So make sure that
this is only for in-flight, basically.
Yeah.
You just get this, and the whole and in Wing you get this for the pre-flight part, right? Which is, I think, is.
Yep.
By the way, this whole project basically convinced me that the only reasonable development experience for the cloud is local, because there's a glass ceiling of
there is a natural limit that you just cannot move faster, right? So if Lambda takes a few seconds to respond, right, or if the ECS container needs like a minute to be updated, you will not be able to go faster than that. You are 100% correct.
Yeah, I had a professor was saying that the universe is, the world is not, it's actually getting bigger. Things get farther because the speed of light is constant. but computers keep getting faster. So anything you're doing on any improvement happens only on your local host. That's what he said, kind of 14 years ago. 14 years ago.
No, but I do think it's not a popular opinion, right? To basically say you can't get to a reasonable developer experience on the cloud. I feel like there's definitely people who are.
Yeah, I think the way you phrased it a lot is that you need that standard library, right? Or you need that common set of abstractions, in order to make this a reasonable local experience, right? And I think that was the key piece, that if you just want to emulate AWS locally, that's not going to be a good experience. You're always going to be behind. You're always going to be playing catch up, and you always have discrepancies between the local experience and how the AWS services work, because they also have their quirks and specificities, right? Every complicated API does. So emulating all of that locally is probably a very difficult proposition.
I mean,
doing it on a standard library.
This is what LocalStack are doing.
Absolutely.
And I think like any resource that they simulate, I think it will be pretty stable in a sense, right? Like, because AWS APIs cannot be broken, and so any resource that you implement eventually is a stable implementation. But I think the expectation from the application is that is that they work against the AWS surface area. And if that surface area keeps getting bigger, then the expectations from your applications keep getting bigger. You have to constantly feed those expectations. And I feel like that's the biggest challenge in this project. In Amazon, they call it the treadmill situation.
Yeah, and even the CDK is on that treadmill, to be honest, right?
Yeah.
Like all of the L2 resources, the services constantly get new features, right? That you have to add. There are constantly new services added that people really want to use, right? Because they're really cool. And we already kind of experienced that treadmill on a much smaller scale, right? Because the CDK constructs, I think, are comparatively easier to write than, a whole API, right? That you have to emulate. And it was already kind of a challenge. So I think the treadmill is definitely
I think like the important difference is that CDK had L1s. There was always escape hatches.
Yes. So we always could say, we already support this through an automated process. But even with that, I think many people kind of considered a given service or feature not supported if it was not supported on the L2 level, right? Because that was the predominant way. Correct. We always explain to people, this is the preferred way to use the CDK, right? So if our preferred way was missing this, the expectation was like, well, it's not really supported. It's supported in this kind of second class a little bit way, right?
Correct. I think we'll have similar problems with Wing, or similar challenges with Wing, right? Like, what's in the SDK? That's a first class citizen, right? It has local experience. It has, and I think like one of our challenges is going to be to like help libraries, raise the bar on what capabilities they give the local experience. For example, kind of like requiring a local experience for libraries might be something that can really help make sure that. So
for sure.
That's like the ecosystem design.
Yeah, exactly. And you can make it easier, right? Maybe you have a library, that is a bunch of helpers that allow you to kind of hook into the simulator, right? So the offer of the resource, right, has a really, nice set of, hey, to make this work in the simulator, I just have to call these 4 APIs, right? And it's kind of easy, so why not add it, right?
Yeah, like running containers is an example we discussed.
Exactly.
Right? It's like classic.
Yeah. Or sending a message, right? Like you have that nice, text box, right? When you can push a message to the queue, right? Or put a file into the bucket, right?
Yeah, the resource interactions on the console, it's definitely something we'll have to basically kind of create an API for developers. It's something that we want to see people interact with.
Awesome. Okay, Eyal is signaling me that we're out of time.
Yeah, and someone is nodding behind. You met that someone already.
And this guy is like running around naked.
And I think I'm getting notifications that Mark is falling asleep. So So I think we're gonna have to move this. First of all, thank you, Adam. You said it before. You could talk a lot about the CDK.
Right.
This was extremely interesting. I really loved your intro. It was a great setups, and
I feel we need to like have.
I have a feeling we're gonna see you
another
again in the
episode.
show. Yeah, I have a feeling we're gonna see you again in the show. Another chat, yet another chat with Adam.
Yes. That's gonna be a whole corner.
Yeah.
We'll have a
I would
logo.
love to. Yes, like I said, I can talk about the CDK for hours. It's such an interesting area, and thanks a lot for having me. It was a
course.
pleasure, and I would be honored if you invited me again. It would be awesome.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Bye, man.
Thank
See
you.
later.
Stay with us for a second to kind of hear what Mark has to say. Does he have something nice for us for this time? Has he prepared anything? Mark, what do you have for us?
Hey there. So today I decided to do something really special for the upcoming launch of Wing. I'm going to play a song. It's not special. I lied. I lied to you. I lied to your face. It's just a regular song, but it's a good one. I hope you enjoy it. It's Bluebird by Kill Bill the Rapper and Ben Beal.
I like that lilac on the chain link, purple tinted paintings. Waking up, I'll say what's up to you, cause you're amazing. I might have a sweet side if I had you by my side. You could be my iris. Look at where the time went.
תעשו את רויטל ואז.
So kind of last minute changes. I think we're kind of very classically out of time, and I think we should have a live let's build it section with a live coding of the URL shortener. Instead,
No, not instead. After.
yeah, right. Are you fooling us? It's we have 20 minutes. I'm not sure it's going to be
Okay,
after.
maybe.
And why are you talking to me if you're not on screen? So instead, we're gonna have Artem joining us. Let's get Artem on screen here, and also Revital. Here she is. So first of all, Revital. Hello, Revital.
Hello.
Oh, it's been a while. It's been a while since you visited or guest co-starred this show. How are you doing, Revital?
I'm really excited. It's the first time I'm doing this show with this setup. I'm used to sit next to you,
Right.
and I actually love it.
What? You used to sit next to me,
and
and you actually love the new setup? What's going on? Is
that a hint?
Am I supposed to be a fool? Because I am.
Yeah, we need to talk.
Yeah, we need to. Let's do lunch. So, how did you came to know Artem?
He's one of our community members. He posted a very nice blog post about Wing. We all loved it and decided that we want to talk to him and hear a little bit more about his post.
Great. So let's invite Artem to join the show. By the way, did you see the show by now? Because I'm gonna have a short quiz about the show so far.
Of course I did. Adam was great.
Okay. Great. So let's get Artem.
Yeah, hey
Artem.
guys.
Hello.
Thanks for having me.
How are you doing, Artem?
Fine. How are you?
I'm good. I have to ask you, where are you from? I mean, where do you live right now?
I'm living in Poland right now, but originally I'm from Ukraine, but
Oh, nice.
already 6 years in Poland.
So it's pretty late for you as well.
Yeah, it's nearly
actually
night.
9:40,
Yeah.
right?
8:40.
8:40. Okay.
Yeah.
You're on the same clock as we are. Awesome.
So thank you for joining us. It's awesome to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so we all read your post, and I'll ask you a few questions about that as well. But maybe you can tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. So basically, I'm a full stack engineer in small Polish company called A4B. Well, not so small, but it was small when I joined. And I had a lot experience in clouds and writing infrastructure for clouds. So that's why I got interested in Wing. Yeah, so basically working on cloud applications, defining infrastructure for cloud applications, and exploring this new interesting tools like Wing.
Awesome. So I have to ask you a question. The last statement in your blog was, "I believe in the future of this project."
Yeah, yeah, that's true because I mean,
Don't take it
when
back,
I
man.
This is like, I want to hear why. I mean, I believe in it too, but I want to hear your
I guess
thoughts.
I guess yeah, I guess that Wing, the language and the whole platform, the whole ecosystem. I don't know if you guys call it like that, but yeah, it's super popular right now. But I mean, I think that it's the future because the the usual developers like me don't have to worry about writing infrastructure, just these policies and all these connections, all these mappings between resources, and we just define in Win. We just define the resource and use it right straight in our application logic without thinking about writing any of IAM policies or stuff like that. So for me, it's a major update from like things like writing infrastructure and application code on the side. I think that like the concept of cloud-oriented language is pretty interesting, and in my opinion, it will gain its, I don't know how to say, fans. So yeah.
Yeah, great. Yeah, yeah. And it was really nice to see your blog post because it was super detailed and you use a lot of features. And I was wondering, and I also thought about Marcio because when we asked Marcio that question, he told us the counter. So I'm wondering what part of Wing was actually motivating you to explore the features and play with it.
I guess I first noticed Wing back in alpha. I
Really?
guess, yeah, in December of 2022. So back then, I looked at the project. I liked it a lot from the first glance, but didn't have a chance to test it out. But I like writing articles because when I write an article, I deep dive into the tool or project or concepts I'm writing about. I'm not like test all the stuff and then write the article about my test. I just write alone my testing.
Oh,
Uh,
interesting. While
yes,
writing it while you're working on the project. Interesting.
yeah.
Wow.
That's how I do it, and that's how I explored the Wing, and I mean, I just wanted to build a sample application using Wing, like create CRUD application in Wing. So I think I did it, and yeah, that really showed how Wing is powerful.
Agree. And you also mentioned, I love that statement as well. For many cloud developers, understanding every detail of the underlying infrastructure is unnecessary for building applications. Does that statement relate to you as well?
I mean, that's how I want to see it, because I'm not like from my own experience, when I introduce new guys to the project we are working on, and where a lot of the resources on the cloud are defined, I also have to introduce them to the tool we are writing infrastructure in. Yeah, you guys mentioned Pulumi before, so we have been using Pulumi a lot.
Interesting.
So
How would you? I mean, I'm just curious. How would you? Pulumi is it's really kind of a very kind of I've reviewed it a couple of times. They have the magic functions. They have some you can set up a local host experience. What's how do you kind of compare Pulumi to the CDK, Pulumi to Wing? What's the different kind of not from a pros and cons, from a conceptual positioning?
I think Pulumi is more general one. The CDK is like for AWS, so it has all the nice features working with AWS. Pulumi is more general one for every cloud, and it has a support of programming languages. That's why I have chosen it. I don't like Terraform. I don't want to learn a completely new language of defining only the infrastructure. So I was like, I'm gonna go with Pulumi this time. But like comparing with Wing, yeah, it's another levels. So yeah, Wing is not only defining the infrastructure but the application logic. So that's what appealed to me.
But why is that appealing to you? Is that what's the value of having? I mean, we're experimenting here with something, right? I mean, in a way, we're seeing this the in-flight keyword and the relationship between pre-flight code and in-flight code. Of course, there's the permission part. That's easy to understand. You don't need to basically kind of explicitly specify the permission. The compilers figure this out and basically kind of creates your least privilege. And this I understand. But what other differences do you see? I mean, you've been working with the cloud a lot.
Also, the thing that you have this local emulation in Win console of the whole flow, and you can test like the whole flow, send the message to the queue, receive it in the function, and then, for example, post the file in the S3 bucket and our other bucket, and it appears there.
Right. You mentioned a lot of testing in your article. It's something it kind of feels like it's close to your heart. Is that correct?
Yeah, because I mean, writing this integration tests is a bit complicated. You guys mentioned local stack before, so I've also came along this tool, but I was not using it because it was too expensive for like projects. I was working. I mean, this my hobby projects, and I mean, having all this inside one tool, one ecosystem is a very, very big upgrade.
Got it. Thanks, man. Thanks.
But still, I want to ask you a question. What type of limitations or challenges were you facing when you wrote and used Wing?
Most of them were connected to not every resource which I'm using in AWS available through the Wing, or not every option of the resource.
Yeah, APIs and stuff.
But apart from that, I guess the tool is great. I also like that you have the extension for VS Code, where it shows you around Wing and gives some tips. But yes, sometimes it was a bit bugs. I encountered some bugs, or like.
Did you fix them?
So I didn't have the chance to contribute, but maybe one day. But I mean, yeah. To returning to that, in Win console, some of the errors were not clear to me.
Okay, interesting.
But I mean, it's not it's in early stage, so yeah.
Right.
I guess that's
Yeah, I think
normal.
when you look at the arrows in the Wing console, it's currently there's no distinction between when you're calling an in-flight resource, kind of in-flight method of a class, whether you're using some bucket. So sometimes you see two arrows because it's not really. We know there's something that we need to fix. It will be interesting. I think we had a discussion over the DM about the relationship between the resource, the kind of the simulator resource with the AWS resources, right? And
yeah, right.
but that's also you kind of contributed by showing those issues. I mean, so you did step one, helping us in understanding what we need to fix. And Vital's going to push you to step two. You ready for this? Don't think it's. She's going to probably ping you.
All right, I'm happy to contribute.
He's
With
good
a
with
good
that.
position.
Yeah.
Yeah. With a good position.
So you mentioned missing resources and APIs or properties or things within the resources. What else would you like to see in Wing in the future? What kind of features or capabilities?
Like this thing you've mentioned, that the mapping of the resources in Wing and the cloud is really a useful feature I'd like to see. I think it's already on this playground on your website. It's available.
Yeah, so
right?
Yeah, right. So in the playground, you want me to show this for a second? I can try to show this for a second. Maybe that will make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Let me do this. So in the playgrounds, I'm going to wing.io/play. Hoping you can see my screen. In
Yes.
the playground, we can see. Let's just do something. Bring cloud, new cloud bucket, and let be equal. Let's do a new cloud. Cloud function, and give an in-flight. Basically access this b.put. So we can see the file. This create this thing, which is nice, but doesn't mean what we have behind the scene. But if we go, let's do even log hello. If we go into the AWS Terraform tab over here, we're seeing a different view. It's going to compile. This thing compiles in the cloud itself. So we have the bucket resources. So we have the Terraform in JSON format of the bucket. We got the access policy. If I'm going to change this bucket to public true, we're going to see it change here. And the encryption side. In the cloud function, we have the IAM role. And we actually have the IAM policy where we can see, because we're doing calling put, we can actually see we're calling put object here. And the attachment and the Lambda function and the S3 object that is eventually the code, and this is the code actually, the S3 object, and also the actual code. So this is when I call log hello, it actually go console log hello. So we have a connection between the AWS Terraform here and the simulator, but we want to build this inside here. We want to give you an option to see this here actually. So that's where we're heading. This is actually a discussion that I remember we had, Artem, about this specific feature.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I'm not sure you had a test tab on this console also. I wasn't testing this one, but what's it about? Like,
okay,
maybe,
so
maybe
I can
it's
do
like, yeah.
I can do test main. I'm just going to call test bucket get and put. Now as you can see, I have a test here. You can see this.
Yeah.
I can run it. It's going to pass because I haven't done anything. I can write a small test. I can do bring. Let's just do assert. Sorry. 1 equal 2, and I'm going to run this. I'm going to run all of them, and this test failed. So I can actually run tests, kind of define my test in the code, and then run them over from here.
Cool.
But those can actually run on the bucket. So I can do a bucket put hello dot file, and then hello, and then I can actually see that b.get gets me that content and actually run those tests, and I can just basically run those tests across the different cloud after I play around with this. Just the playground.
Oh, I haven't noticed this in the console, but
In the console, okay, interesting.
I see it's there already. I haven't tested it, but yeah, that's a really cool feature. I guess that's another one I wanted to talk about, like having this ability of defining tests in code and running them in Playground, like maybe even seeing the flow, how it goes from one resource to another, like the graphical representation of the things.
Yeah, so I think one of the things, if you're familiar with OpenTelemetry, I'm really keen of seeing in the console to start seeing kind of traces and trace IDs and being able to go over traces and seeing flows and actually and it's a good way to actually collaborate on stuff. This flow basically breaks down, and it's going to take some time, but this is one of the areas I'm mostly excited about in the console.
Yeah, like an X-ray, but for AWS X-ray, but for Wing.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So that. Are you using X-ray?
No.
Exactly. Okay. I'm trying to find it. So it's a very interesting concept, but I haven't seen. But kind of Datadog, you can kind of imagine Datadog, but because we have the actual application logic, application layer. Not the infrastructure of the application. We can actually see kind of this DynamoDB is actually a counter. So this is a counter. Behind the scenes, DynamoDB, then, you have a lot of value, and imagine that we can take this experience into the cloud. So this is where we're heading. Having a really great experience on the local host, and then, you know what? If you want to connect, you can also connect this to the cloud. The console is built in a way that it will be able to connect to the cloud.
Right.
It
will be amazing.
In the product, we say it seamlessly. The engineering side I'm looking at it and say, no, it's not seamlessly. It's going to take years. So it's debating it.
Awesome. I have one last question. So based on your experience, what resources or documentations do you recommend for developers who would like to start playing with Wing?
I guess this Playground is a very good thing to start because you don't need to install anything. I found the RFC documents really useful, but I got a little bit of when I tried finding some things in the Wing which were not implemented yet, I was a bit confused. But apart from that, it was good. It was the documentation on Wing site is really good, and I like that.
Awesome.
And of course, Slack.
Oh yes.
I was really hoping.
That's our home.
Of course, the Winglish show. What about the Winglish show?
Of course, the Winglish show. Right.
Okay. Right.
The Winglish shows, the Slack. Yeah. Awesome.
Just issues. Vital's gonna
help wanted issues. Awesome.
Well,
wow.
It's been a pleasure. It's been really interesting. Yes. I want to say from the site to read your post. I've revisited this before today just to kind of brush things, and it's really kind of inspiring to read about this. And I also visited other posts that you have. Do you mind if we post your LinkedIn profile here? Okay, so let me do that because it's super interesting to read your stuff here. And thank you for being here. And I have a feeling that with a little help from Vital, we're going to hear a lot about you in the Wing community. And I'm excited. I'm excited to get your feedback on stuff. Thank you very much for this.
Thank you
Thanks
so
for
much for
having
joining
me.
us.
And Vital, before we wrap up, we're going to get a lot to wrap up the show, and I want you to stay. But before, let's hear a little bit of tune from what the DJ had to give us. So,
Yes, I'm waiting for that.
Yeah.
Again, but that's not how my story fucking ends. Let me make you sing like a bluebird. I'm so kind, don't even split the Uber. Got no time to fuck around and lose her. But niggas can't change it, bitch. I got feelings that I never really had before. Made me sober up, maybe striking chord. Welcome to my world, kinda bleak, but I make do. Just listen to the music. I like that lilac on a chain link, purple tinted paintings. Waking up, I'll say what's up to you, cause you're amazing. I might have the sweet side if I had you by my side.
Okay. So hey, Vital, we got a lot here, not here.
Hello.
Got a hand.
It was really fun today. I was like, I loved the format, not the parts that I was speaking, the parts that.
Oh my God, and I have to take back one thing. I really miss sitting next to Elad physically.
Yeah,
I really miss it. But
Yeah.
I love this specific setup. I don't like the, all of the.
So kind of shout out. We're using StreamYard. It's it's my first experience with this was 2 months ago, and it's fucking awesome.
Yes.
It's a great tool. Thank you. I mean, we're a paying customer, and we love paying every dollar. It's a great experience.
Yeah.
I really love the tool.
Agreed.
And
So
again,
maybe 1 minute of silence
what for the? You want me to bring
for StreamYard.
So yeah, I agree. This format, kind of bringing people outside, hearing what they work. I really like that. I think we should kind of.
We should do it more often. Yeah.
And it's also
really
really, I think for us, it's really, really valuable to like hear, how people perceive the project, like what they like, what they don't like. It's amazing. It's an amazing point of view that I don't think I've never had that point of view in such a kind of like deep way. I don't know. Like I think like it's just like talking to people in the community, talking to people who are involved with the project or not involved with the project. Like I feel like it gives us a really amazing mirror, right?
Yeah.
And really helps us be more accurate and teaches us a lot.
Completely agree. And the different point of views. I will always remember what Marcio said about the counter. We need to have a Giphy about that.
Maybe an the counter.
I loved it. I loved how you asked
Artem.
Artem about the counter. It was like
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Matthew said the counter. Yeah. It was awesome. Yeah.
What do you say?
Yeah. The different
You like how
perspectives.
I asked if he fixed all the bugs?
Oh, wow. Classic
Classic
Revis move. Classic Revis. So first of all, next time I hope you're gonna be here next to
will.
us. It's gonna be awesome, and but it's also fun. Actually, it's also fun. I also like the fact that StreamYard is gonna bring us all together very easily. I think that's also nice.
I agree.
And I think I love the format. I also want to hear other people kind of how they solve the same problem that Winglang solved, the local host experience, testing. I would love to hear how other people are solving. So shout out to all the listeners. There's I don't know. I see 8 somewhere. There's 800 maybe, or maybe 13 or 15. I don't know. So if you if you want to talk about how you solve the same problem of localhost development, testing, cloud, with the CDK, with Pulumi, with Terraform, with whatever, with chart, with anything, it's going to be very interesting discussion for us as well. So unless you want to say any other stuff, we should go back to the last part of. We're gonna basically leave with.
I wanted to say thank you for
thank you.
hosting the show so consistent.
Wow.
Maybe one episode you weren't
Right, I missed that.
but hosting this show every 2 weeks, and I know that it's requires a lot of energy, and
it's fun, man.
it's really
like-
fun.
It's
Eventually,
fun.
it's really
It's fun, and there's a good. There's actually it's not just me. I mean, there's a good group behind me, and
the whole team.
there's a whole team of.
There's like a whole production
right,
crew.
Right. Something should happen right now. To see me somewhere in a deserted place with a computer. So I think we should basically end with me talking, and then it automatically moves into.
Ride around the side of town just trying to fill this empty space. I was just learning the shape of your curves, baby. Time was up, I'm like, word, baby. One so blunt, smoke my cologne. Seafood trying to find a home. All your pillowcase of your jackets, leave it like a few before, but none after.